Hello there and welcome. I am excited to share some information with you today about your digestive system. But before again, let's go ahead and collect some legalism here. My disclosure is the information in the following presentation is intended to be used for information only. This is not intended to diagnose or treat any medical issues that you may have or believe to have, and you should talk to your medical provider about any concerns. I am not a doctor and I am not giving medical advice. The purpose of this presentation is to share basic knowledge of your digestive system to improve the conversations that you have with your medical providers and to help build a sustainable life with healthy food choices. You should never begin an exercise protocol without first checking with your provider to ensure that you're physically able to safely execute the activities. You should never discontinue the use of prescribed medication without the consent of your provider. I am merely sharing information that is available to the prudent person. Be smart in your wellness and be your own advocate. And with that, let's begin. Today, we're going to talk about harmony within, specifically your gut health. I am Natalie. I am an owner of a weight loss clinic in Columbus, Ohio, and this is information that I share with my clients day in and day out. We talk about poop, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So today's agenda, I'm going to introduce you to your digestive system. We're going to walk through all the various parts of the digestive process. I'm going to introduce you to gut microbiome, share some imbalances in the gut and how they come about. We're going to get into some symptoms of where you may have some gut imbalance. Let's go ahead and dive right in. Why are we talking about this? Well, I think it's important to understand, especially as you begin a weight loss journey, is what's happening in your digestive system, because so much of our body actually functions through our digestive system. And if we don't have a good, healthy gut, it increases the likeliness that we are going to have resistance in trying to lose weight. Our digestive system, I like to argue it actually begins with our hormones and like our sense of smell. You've ever been walking through the mall and you walk by a Godiva store and that chocolate and you smell it and you weren't really hungry, but as soon as you smell it, all of a sudden you could go for a big fat piece of chocolate. Our hormones also play a role in to communicate when we are hungry. And I think that's actually when the digestive process starts, is that indication that it's time for us to eat. But it truly begins from a digestive system perspective when we chew our food. So we put stuff in our mouth and our saliva starts to break down and assist in breaking down that substance. Then we swallow, and it goes down our esophagus, enters into our stomach. From there, the stomach has the responsibility of taking all this substance and turning it into something called chyme. And then it goes into the small intestine, which it has about 25 feet of process where the nutrients are absorbed into our system and transported where it can be used in our cells. And then it hits the large intestines, and this is where the large intestine's primary function is to create fecal matter. And there's 12 primary organs and 3 accessory organs that are in our digestive system. So I like to think of it as kind of like a game. I grew up playing spades, and you ever get that feeling of, when you get dealt a hand and you know that you'll be lucky to take one trick, you're really hoping that your hand is so bad that your partner is the one who has all of the good cards, but you sit there and you're looking at it and you're like, well, I'm not getting any points. If you were playing hearts, it would be a great feeling because you have such a bad hand. You're not going to take any tricks and everyone else is going to get 26 points. But whatever the game is, your digestive system is quite like that game. You are given a deck of cards or you're given a board, and you can strategically play a game that causes your body to have to process on the other side, and you can win every single hand. It's just a matter of what it is that you can stack the deck. You can put in your mouth all of the things that are going to get the byproduct of what you're looking for on the inside of your body. And it's something you can control. So what's great about everything I'm going to share with you is that game. I'm going to share a game of how you can actually stack the cards in your favor. See, the food goes through a journey. When it comes in, it's going to go through some things, technical jargon there, and the body needs to send these vital nutrients into proper places. So we put it in our mouth, it goes down the esophagus, the stomach starts to exchange some chemicals, and it sells off some carbons. It's going to pull in some information if it's a carbohydrate so that it can get what it needs from these ancillary organs. It's going to send it to the liver, shoot it out into our system, and we're going to get everything in our cells that we need in order for us to function. So all of this happens when in the digestive system, there's all these little capillaries that are moving around that's going to take the stuff we're eating and absorb it and put it into the bloodstream. And we also use our lymphatic system to move stuff around. But the primary function of the lymphatic system is to regulate these fluids that are coming into the bloodstream and push them to other parts of our body. And our system is incredibly vital to sending what our body needs. Every cell needs nutrients. Every cell needs oxygen. And so our bloodstream and our lymphatic system are the two things that are used in order to move this stuff around. And even though our bloodstream is not necessarily a part of our digestive system, it's a supporting system to move the stuff around. So incredibly cool how our bodies are designed. In fact, I like to say that when we eat food, it's like physically walking. If we were food, we would be walking from New York City to LA and have all these little stops in between. And it happens at a much rapid pace than if we were to physically walk from New York City to LA. But I love the analogy because when you are moving from one city to the next city and you're physically moving yourself along the way, that's what's happening to this food and this water, all this stuff that we consume in our body. It's like it's taking the journey inside our bodies from New York City to LA. It's super cool if you think about it because it's like a whole other ecosystem and inside of us. It's so cool. But what we put in, it has to move through the whole system. But what happens when we get done with it? Well, we got to get it out, which is why I talk about fecal matter all the time. Because the last stop is when it gets into the colon and it's got to go through some processes to create fecal matter. And the best way that we create fecal matter is in our gut microbiome. It's a small little world all in itself, which would have the same ecodiversity as the Amazon rainforest. How cool is that? That's inside our body. There are over 100 trillion bacteria and fungi and tiny little life forms that we hold in our bodies. And there's over 1,000 different species of just bacteria alone inside our colon. And the whole entire purpose is that they've got to break down the substance that comes into their realm so that we can get it out. We get everything that we need, and then we've got to push it. And these little microorganisms can only be seen with a microscope, and they eat just enough of this leftover waste to help us get it out and not pull anything that we need from our bodies. So it's a stabilizer in our body, unless there's a disruption. They stop at Compton before they actually get to downtown LA. It's like showing up at Compton at like 2 a.m. and you're walking through the neighborhoods all alone. Yeah, that's an imbalance in our gut. You get some bad bacteria that overgrows and you become unhealthy levels of these bad microbes and they start to take over the area. It creates these sudden shocks in our digestive system. And there's actually a medical term for it, dysbiosis. Told you I wasn't a doctor. But it's much harder for the digestive system to metabolize food when it has this imbalance. And this imbalance could be something as simple as you drink some bad water, or it could be where there's too much stress in your life. But somehow, or you got sick, you got the sinus infection and you got put on some antibiotics. Somehow there's been a shift where you've got a higher level of bad bacteria than what you have of good bacteria. Now, the long-term effects of this imbalance is obesity, inflammatory bowel disease, cancer, irritable bowel system, diabetes, autism, cardiovascular disease, kidney disease, and central nervous system disorders. It's kind of, I mean, there's a lot of bad stuff that can happen. And it's oftentimes not tied to the gut because the gut's going to give us just some symptoms and we'll treat the symptoms, but you really have to be intuitive to be able to recognize when there's an irregulation. The first way is weight gain. Now, I am so in tune with my digestive health that I already know what's going to happen to my bowels the next day after I consume stuff. And I wake up in the morning and I want to throw back an entire bowl of blackberries. But when we experience weight gain, it is a hindrance to us. It means that there's something that is potentially happening in our gut. Now, not all weight gain is coming from unhealthy microbiomes, but it's a really good indication. If we're intuitive with our gut, it's a really good indication that sudden weight gain might mean that we have some disruptions. Having a desire to eat the wrong foods, yeah, that's going to be something that'll catch us, but it's also the reason that causes it. So what comes, the chicken and the egg? Did we eat bad stuff and have a bad microbiome? But we craved the stuff that we wanted. So I was craving a Big Mac. I ate the Big Mac, and now I'm wanting more Big Macs, and I'm getting heavier because I'm eating nothing but Big Macs. It's like you're the hamster on the wheel, just running over and over. Eating the wrong foods is going to fuel the unhealthy bacteria in our gut. But most importantly, I want to point out, if you're trying to lose weight and keep it off, chronic imbalances in your gut health, it's going to sabotage your efforts. You can't be eating Big Macs, taking medicine and saying, oh, I'm just consuming half of my Big Mac instead of 100% of my Big Mac that I really would have eaten yesterday. I mean, yeah, you have the decline in the caloric intake, but you're fueling that unhealthy gut. So how do you know if you have a gut imbalance? Well, one of the first few indicators is bloating, cramps, diarrhea, constipation, nausea, or sharp, unexplained pains in your abdomen. It's also chronic fatigue, achy joints, skin rashes, sudden outbreaks in acne, difficulty in urinating, vaginal or rectal itching, depression, loss of focus and concentration, kind of like me and my stutter. But you should seek medical help if you have any of these things. Go to your primary doctor first. If the imbalance is extreme, they're probably going to put you on a short-term exposure to antibiotics. Now, antibiotics are going to kill the bad biotics, but they're going to kill the good biotics too, and you already have an imbalance. So it's really important to counteract the antibiotics with eating a whole bunch of good biotic foods. So seek help from a medical functional medicine practitioner. Functional medicine practitioners are actually going to test your fecal matter. And the fecal matter test is really the primary way for you to determine if you have that gut imbalance. I'm not a big fan of getting colonoscopies to test for an unhealthy gut because you wash out all the fecal matter for you to get the colonoscopy. Colonoscopy is a great procedure to use to look at whether or not you have more extreme issues, such as polyps or precancerous issues or even cancer in your colon. So please continue to go get your colonoscopies. But if you want to see if you have an imbalance in your gut, the functional medicine practitioner can help you with that. The other way to kind of test things and to make sure that you are maintaining this homeostasis in your colon is to remove bad foods. Get rid of your processed foods, your sugars, your sweeteners, and your excessive dairy. This will be the last time that you're going to see my Godiva. From this point forth, we're going to talk about ways to improve, have a positive gut environment. And in that next meeting, we're going to talk about that more. We're going to get more specifics into these biotics, both prebiotics and probiotics, and I'm looking forward to seeing you then.